It's a party, and eventually we're gonna actually do a podcast, and it's gonna be pretty great, and everyone's gonna love it. Oh no! Oh, ice has been thrown onto my desk. It is now melting and gaining volume. It is sloshing all across my desk. It is like the film 2012 with the floods, and it is just flying everywhere. If you're listening on the audio version, I might sound like I'm underwater now because of all the water that has come from this ice cube that is on my desk. It's flying all over the place. I'm basically swimming across my room. Oh no, I'm gonna drown. This is the show that we're doing, and it's really, really good. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
It's a show. Wow, what a great open.
What a great open.
So we're here today to talk about a movie, like we do sometimes.
But first!
But first.
Ben!
Yeah? What's
First,
up?
we're going to talk about the news. We got some hot scoops.
True.
Hot scoops.
As opposed to cold scoops. Okay, moving on.
Oh, cold scoops. Very funny. First of all, start on a somber note. Fred Willard, comedy TV man, has passed away. I don't remember how old he was. I did not write that down. But he was in a lot of TV shows for a long time. And he was in a couple episodes of a Community as
maybe
an alternate version of Pierce in a dream sequence.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's what that is. Don't really know his work that well, but I've seen him in stuff for sure.
Right.
Moving on to the next thing. Here's a cool one that you might be morally ambivalent. Words are working.
Yes.
You might be interested in this. Mandalorian, the TV show, stars the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, all of that.
It does. Yeah, that's correct.
Season 2, a lot of news slowly coming out. The newest news is that basically they are bringing back every character in Star Wars canon for Season 2. We are going to be getting Ahsoka Tano. We are going to be getting Bo-Katan. We are going to be getting Boba Fett. All of these people, with Temuera Morrison returning in the role, now as his son, Boba Fett, previously played Jango Fett. And Timothy Olyphant has also been cast in a mystery role. We don't know what he is going to be. He's been in a lot of stuff. For me, I most recognize him from Modern Warfare 2. He was one of the voices in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But what do you make of this? Because I'm a little bit worried by all of this returning character news.
It feels like they were like, "Oh, you guys want Ahsoka? Hey, what about all these other? You like this one? Let's do this one too. Oh, sure. Let's throw that one. Oh, you got that one? Yeah, why not? Put them in there. It's either going to be that or it's going to be done in a really good way. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's a show, so it's a different medium. There might be more opportunities and different stories to tell that make it all make sense because the writing was very good in the first season.
Yeah,
so unless a lot changed, then cool. I'm excited to see live action Ahsoka because we've never seen that. There's no canon.
It was supposedly going to be Rosario Dawson, but then she came out and said that she hadn't been in talks or something. It's not entirely clear. But the woman, Katie Sackhoff, who voices Bo-Katan, is going to be coming back to play her.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting and makes me wonder if the girl whose name I can never remember, Ashley Eckstein, I think, who voices Ahsoka, if she would come back and do that as well, because she totally could. I could see it 100%.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I like that. We'll see how it goes. I mean, we can talk about it when it happens. It'll be back on this segment of news. Mm-hmm. But that's our hot take on that. That's for sure.
The other thing that people are bringing up too is that, obviously Boba Fett, Jango Fett was the template for all of the clones.
Right.
So maybe Captain Rex.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Maybe Captain Rex. So maybe Temuera Morrison isn't just playing Boba Fett. Maybe he's also clones that have survived the Purge or something. Maybe he's another returning character from Rebels.
I could see them doing that, yeah, definitely. I mean, Boba's the same as Jango, so...
Yes.
They're
What does that mean?
like they look the same. They are the same person.
Oh, that's true
So,
because he's a clone of him.
yeah.
Yes.
Like literally,
okay.
it's just okay. I was
It's
like,
what
what's so
do you mean
confusing
they're the
about
same? No,
well,
they
like
are
what I'm saying
clones.
is they're the same. So I mean, so would Rex. So you could do that pretty easily. And they, like, if you look at the behind the scenes or like how they're making it, it's all
Mhm.
about like efficiency. So I could see them doing, a story like that where they could literally like pursue 5 or 6 different things with like a small, like literally one cast member, and then do some crazy VFX to put, duplicate them and put some heads somewhere where they don't need to be. And
I guess I don't know.
Movie magic.
I get concerned because the first season was built off of all of these original characters. I don't think there was a
Right.
single returning character in The Mandalorian, was there?
I don't think so either, but I wonder if that also like almost held it back. Like I feel like
I don't know.
you don't,
I think it did so well building off of these new original things. It was for me
Right.
refreshing to not have like the crutch of like, oh well, we've got Ahsoka Tano in the background and she comes in and fights
Right.
Darth Vader for a few minutes and then we move on. And that's the reason you watch the show. And now you're gonna go
Right.
watch these other people for a long time. Like I'm interested in Din Djarin, and Grief Karga or whatever it is. Like I
don't
want to
know,
know what
though.
happens
I
to these
mean,
guys.
I'm glad that they're at least like innovating though, because a lot of shows get stale. Like if you look at like the whole like Game of Thrones thing, which I think is the closest comparison to this in a way, like that by the end of it it got stale. It was kind of the same old, and I think if they have like such overarching plans as they probably do with this show, like
Sure.
if you look at it with the current body of work with like what's going to be 2 seasons, it might seem like they're jam packing a lot of stuff in there, but we could see that that they're just setting up a bunch of storylines for down the road, and it's more of like a future play instead of like a right now the most entertaining thing, which Jon Favreau being the director and being involved with Marvel and the whole Disney thing there, I feel like they're going to try actively to do the same thing of like building like a character that everyone likes and then being able to do spin-off shows and characters with that and then bring them all back together in like some sort of movie or longer form piece of content. So, and it could be like the Mandalorian is that for all of these other like sub stories, because you have like the Obi-Wan show coming next, so it's like where are these all going to fit in with each other, you know what I mean? Like is this just the beginning of something that's a lot bigger, so it makes sense, whereas we're just looking at it as just the Mandalorian right now. So
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how that goes down the road, but that's my only thought with that is either it's a long play or it's going to be a quick cash grab of like, look at all these characters we have. Disney Plus is so cool. Mandalorian season 2 is still a bunch of Disney Plus. It kind of depends which direction it goes.
Yeah, I mean, with how short the episodes are, like we forget, like they did not feel very long. Like they were hardly even a half hour for a lot of those 8 episodes.
Right.
And
yeah.
I just don't know how they could possibly give all of these returning characters any time in the spotlight.
There was
beyond
barely
a
enough to
cameo.
build up, like the main character.
Because it's not
what I
like
mean,
a
the
Star Wars
Mandalorian.
Rebels where it's 20-minute episodes, but you have like 24 of them per season.
Right.
You got 8 episodes. What are you going to do with them?
But you look at the Clone Wars too, and what they're really doing is setting up the Siege of Mandalore. So it could be that they're just exploring the Siege of Mandalore, and all of those people are part of that battle. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty big. I mean, I don't know who's like involved in the Siege of Mandalore or anything like beside like in other canon or anything like that. But I feel like it's a pretty monumental battle. Like it's referenced to a lot, especially with the Mandalorian.
Yeah. I don't know.
So Ahsoka was there with them. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I hope
The
it's
whole
good.
setup.
That's what I say about that.
Yeah.
Next piece of news: Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 are being remade. They look incredible. I am
They
insanely
absolutely do.
excited.
I'm excited. Yeah,
Oh
I can't wait to
my
play
gosh.
that with the boys. That's gonna be a fun
Yes,
one.
the online multiplayer is going to be incredible. They got all the skaters from the original game to come back and do like 3D motion capture stuff
Yeah,
again.
I think that's what's cool. I mean, it's what the fans wanted, and you don't get that a lot. It's a straight remaster basically, but like improved in all of what looks like the right ways. Like
I mean, it's more of
new
a
characters,
remake.
animations. Right,
Because
that's what
they
I'm saying.
pretty much had only like the base code of it from
Right.
Neversoft, because Neversoft doesn't exist anymore. So they
Yeah.
had to almost build this thing from the ground up.
That's what I'm saying, and they did it the right way though. They stayed true to like the original, and they didn't like try to make it something that it wasn't. They just were like, hey, here's the original, and let's bring it up to today's standards. Like, what would this game have been like if it launched today? Like every gamer's like, question about any game where it's like, oh, what if what's the 007 game? I
GoldenEye.
don't know. Yeah, GoldenEye 007. Like, what if that was released today? You know, like, instead of, if it was released today and a lot of studios took it, they would be like, okay, add some microtransactions in, let's do this, let's do that. Not saying it doesn't have that, but, you know, they'd have a different agenda with it. Whereas, you know, this is like, let's just rebuild the game and make it as good as we can. Yeah. So that's what I feel like. That's why I'm excited about it, because it just feels like a passion project more than like a money grab or a reboot of a franchise.
Hopefully it's as good as it looks. It's being made by the same people who remade the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, and that was apparently a fantastic remake.
Right.
So I have great hope for this. I also hope that we get some secret characters like the original games had. Licensing would be a very interesting, weird thing, though it might be hard for them to get Spider-Man and Darth Maul this time.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. Maybe they, we need some new stuff, some new icons. Can you
imagine, though, playing as Darth Maul in this game or playing as, like, MCU Spider-Man in this game?
That would be kind of wild.
That'd be crazy. It's such a staple of skating games, too, because, like, even, like, Skate 3, you can play as Isaac Clarke from the Dead Space games. You can play as a slab of meat.
Though. Think about it, though. Like, both of those properties are owned by Disney.
Yeah, but, I mean, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is not.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, like, what... I don't know where I was going with that. I thought somehow they were all owned by Disney. Whatever. Disney owns everything. Art is a lie. Yep. There is no choice.
Next piece of news.
Brings us to the... Oh.
I have 2 pieces of news left.
That was a good segue to the movie, to be honest.
Oh, well, that's a lie. Hamilton is being released on Disney Plus with the original cast in July.
Cool.
I'm excited about this.
I'm a theater kid that knows Hamilton.
I have never listened to the music in Hamilton. I've never, except for like the one that everybody has heard portions of.
Right.
I'm not giving away my shots. Something. I'm just like my country. I'm something, and I'm hungry. That one. You know what I'm talking about?
Kind of. I just have actively stayed away from anything to do with Hamilton for a long time.
Because Ben doesn't want to like popular things.
No. I just don't. No. Yes. I will admit it. And other
disagreeing
things I said
with
on this
me is
podcast
just proving my
before.
point.
No. Hold on.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I just hate Hamilton because it looks dumb. I'd be honest. If I hated it because it was popular, I would say that. It looks really stupid. I don't know.
It looks cool. But it's being released with the original cast and everything.
I'm sure it's a great thing.
In July. And I'm really interested to see what that is, because I was sure as hell never going to go and see it, because that's impossible. And you can't see it with the original cast now anyway, because they are not doing it anymore.
They're dead. They all died.
They all died. Lin-Manuel Miranda, David Diggs, they're all dead. Every single one.
Buried, done with, that's over.
Yep. Final piece of news. There's a Scarface remake in the works, which has been a thing for a while, but it now has a director in Luca Guadagnino. Luca Guadagnino. This is the guy who directed Call Me By Your Name, which I have not seen. I've heard that people really love this movie. I've also heard that people think that it is extremely boring.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really have interest. But I will watch a Scarface movie, especially because it is apparently, the current script has apparently been penned by the Coen brothers.
Interesting. I'll watch it. We can talk about it. Why not?
Have you seen Scarface, the first one?
No.
Neither have I. We'll talk about it sometime. Great. We'll watch it sometime.
Good news.
That's my last news.
We're very familiar with this news.
That's my last news. That's all the news that I've got.
All of them.
All of my news.
Okay.
That's the only movie news.
Right.
But what if there's other kinds of news out there?
Are you talking about...
What if there's more news that is specific to a certain locale, to a certain address?
What if... which I'm not going to say. Let's not put our address on the internet.
Who says it's our address?
That's a great point, but it could be. It's
just a theoretical kind of news that might exist out there.
Yeah, we could call it like apartment news.
It might be apartment news. Tell me about it.
I don't know. Did anything happen since the last time we...
I don't know, man. This is your segment. This is your apartment news.
I mean, I don't know. I made some food.
Don't fail the loyal listeners.
Okay, here's one thing I did. I made some marinated chicken, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
I gave Marshall a bite. I think he thought it was pretty good, too.
I had a good time.
So just, a little educational segment for you guys. Those of you that may have an apartment and may be cooking, your own meals and whatnot. The basic ingredients to any sort of marinade, you got to have some oil in there. You also need to have some, I don't know if it's balsamic vinegar. Oh no, apple cider vinegar. And the reason you do that is it's an acid. There's acid in it. So you can open up the meat, and then that flavoring, it goes inside of it, and it flavors it all up. And you want to have some sugar in there so that when you cook it, it caramelizes nice on the outside and is nice and crunchy, or not crunchy. That can kind of be the amount of sugar you put in there. Crunchy caramelization. Right. That's what, it's the caramelization of sugar, which gives it a nice sweet taste, a nice savory taste as well. And then, you put some other seasonings in there to your taste. Personally, all I did was put some apple cider vinegar, some Worcestershire sauce, and some jerk chicken
Worcestershire
in a
sauce?
bag. And I put the chickens in that bag. I mixed them up. I left them in the fridge for overnight, and then I made it for lunch, and it was really good. And that's how you too could make a chicken marinade.
Wow, chicken
Apartment
marinade.
news.
Apartment news. That's the new theme song.
Okay, sounds good.
There's a new theme song every week for Apartment News.
That's true. Let's get into the movie. I'm excited to talk about it.
Let's get into the movie. So this week, let me tell you, we spent a long time not knowing what we were going to watch for this week of the podcast.
That's very true.
And then we watched a movie,
Yep.
and it is also a book.
Which you don't know because you haven't read the title.
You don't know what movie it is. That's my bit.
No, it's mine. I always say that.
Well, I always say that it's a surprise movie, and then you always point out that they obviously don't know because they
I just beat you to the
read
punch this time.
I'll beat you with my punch because we watched Fight Club, and it's all about fighting and punching. So let me tell you about it.
Good transitions, dude. We got so much podcast chemistry, dude. We're so good at this.
Time to get
7
beat up.
Oh, wait, is this 6 or 7?
7, I think.
7 episodes in, man. The holy number. We're coming out here.
Time to beat you up with my good punches, and you're not even going to know that they're coming because,
Nice
thank you, here it is, because they may or may not be real, but we'll get there. So
Marshall, this is I want to point this out before we get into this.
Yeah, enjoy your moment.
I have seen this movie before, and Marshall hadn't seen it.
I had not.
So it's a first on the podcast. This is the first time I think that's happened.
Yeah, I think so.
So I just want to put that out there. So maybe I'll be, let me drive the bus today. That's all I get.
Yeah.
Never mind. Anyways,
did you write down very detailed plot points?
No, I just want to talk about it, and then you can do all the hard work, like every other podcast. So
this is. I'm gonna try to go through it a lot faster because it's a long movie, and it
is very. How long? What's the runtime on it?
I think it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, is it 2.5 or 3? I don't know which one.
I think it's about 2.5. I don't think it's 3. It felt like a long time to me.
Right. Well, it felt like a long time to me the first time I watched it too, and then I watched it again, and I realized that it was a lot shorter than how it felt the first time.
Interesting. Well, this is the movie. I wrote down so many little notes and details. I'm just going to try to go through it quick. Basically, Edward Norton, his character is never named. He's just the narrator in the credits. I called him Ed.
Actually,
my notes.
He's Jack.
Well, that's what Edward Norton says, but there's no official say on any of that. But I called him Ed.
2 hours and 31 minutes, by the way.
Boom, I win. So Edward Norton, the movie opens, and he is tied to a chair or just sitting in a chair. It's not clear. And stuff is about to blow up, and it's going to get crazy. And then it goes back in time. He's in an office job. He's unhappy with his life. He can't sleep. And he ends up going to some support groups and starts to kind of like feed off of their emotion and their like pain. And like it, for whatever reason, it helps him sleep. So he becomes like addicted to this. And he starts going to tons and tons of these support groups.
Well, does he sleep at the beginning? I don't know. Like, is he? I thought he was still suffering from insomnia. I didn't watch the first part because I skipped. To 46
so he
today.
Isn't sleeping, and then he starts going to these things, and he starts sleeping again.
Okay.
So like they're like feeding off of these guys' pain and stuff like that is like
right
cathartic.
Yeah, I didn't know if
somehow.
he was sleeping or because I'll bring it up later. anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So then this woman Marla starts coming to these groups, played by Bellatrix Lestrange, whose real name I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. That's the only way I've ever described her, to be honest.
Yeah. She starts coming to all these groups, and she obviously is also faking because she is a woman and does not have testicular cancer. So he starts to get, ironically upset that she's coming to all these groups and faking. And they decide to split the groups up. And she's just like this kind of like wild card. She's just like wild at heart. And I wrote here, Marla has no fear of death and no regard for life.
I like that. That's yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then, Ed is on a plane. He meets Tyler Durden, and he's
Such a great scene.
Yeah, he's sitting next to him on the plane, and he's like Marla. He's kind of non-conforming, and they have this whole conversation, and it's just like, Tyler is just kind of irreverent about everything, and is like, well, whatever, I don't care, nothing matters, it's fine, I don't care, capitalism is bad. That's the short version.
Yeah.
So Ed goes home, but his house got blown up. So he's like, well, dang it, my house got blown up. And at first he calls Marla, and then he chickens out, and he calls Tyler. He meets Tyler at a bar, and they basically just talk for a really long time. They figure out that, he's going to stay at Tyler's place, and then they just start fighting. They start punching each other.
Well, okay, they don't just start fighting. Tyler asks him if he's ever hit anybody, and he's like, I've never been in a fight either. And so they start fighting each other, and they just hit each other. Like, they aren't mad at each other, they're just hitting each other, and they're like, that was weird, and then it kind of moves on to the next thing.
Well, that was weird, but it's also, we should do this again sometime, is an actual thing that comes out of Edward Norton's character's mouth. So there's this whole montage then of Tyler doing odd jobs and doing awful things at them, little stupid petty crimes. And then it gets to the brawling behind the bar. So they go to Tyler's house. It's this dilapidated old, just garbage house that he's obviously just squatting in. He doesn't own this place. And they continue to have this this fighting going on behind the bar. People start to take notice. Guys start to join them. And then eventually, boom, they start Fight Club. It's the Fight Club. It's underneath the bar. Guys can come and they can punch each other, and there's no repercussions. You just punch each other and you feel better about your problems. And it's great, and it's awesome. And so then Marla calls the house. Ed ignores her, and then Tyler picks up the phone, and Tyler and Marla start hooking up. It starts really bothering Ed eventually. All kinds of stuff gets crazy. Cops start investigating Ed's apartment for arson. Then people keep joining the Fight Club. It keeps getting more and more intense and larger and kind of crazier. And let's see where we at. Skip past a lot of these details that aren't super, super important. Great. So Tyler starts to send all of the guys in the Fight Club off on all of these different homework assignments, these different tasks, these petty crimes, essentially. And it's becoming this huge thing. People are starting to come and live in the house. It's becoming Project Mayhem instead of the Fight Club. All of the weird crime, petty crime. It's really hard to describe. This is the really difficult one to...
You really need to watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's even if you were to be able to describe it, the way that it's shot and the way that there's so many in plot lines that you have to just watch, because some of them are only visual, some of them are auditory things. It's a movie in every sense of the word, which I think is very cool.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that later, but yeah, there's so many nuances, and that's I was watching some summaries because we were Marshall rented it on Amazon, and I was going to watch it at the same time he did, but it didn't work to stream 2 copies. So at first I was just watching some synopses and stuff, and then I started watching little clips of the movie, and I was remembering shoot, this thing is so dang detailed. So I ended up just buying a copy because it's $5 on Amazon, and watching the rest of it, because I was there's no way I'm going to be able to talk about this unless you get into the narrative, because no summation or like synopsis or like YouTube video or anything like that is going to substitute watching this movie. And it's not really one where each plot point can be boiled down, since everything's so much up to personal interpretation. It's a weird movie to summarize, you know.
Yeah,
definitely one you should watch if you watch any of them so far in this.
That said, gonna quickly finish this summary.
Right.
So we're gonna get to the big spoiler here in a minute. So if you don't want to know that, don't listen, I guess.
Yeah, go watch the movie before. Yeah,
but
you should have watched it before.
Things start getting really, really crazy, start getting like over the top, really intense. Tyler's sending these guys out on all kinds of missions. They're getting more and more like higher level, like crime and stuff like that. And just like bigger things are happening in the background that Edward Norton doesn't totally understand what's going on, doesn't really, maybe he's kind of blocking it out a little bit. And then it finally comes to a point where I think was kind of a breaking point of Tyler threatens a man's life over his community college career and justifies it by saying that he'll feel alive tomorrow like he never has before. And then Edward Norton's character the whole time is like, well, what? This isn't funny. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is too far, man. This is ridiculous. And then he goes through his whole thing of, well, tomorrow he's going to taste the pancakes and they're going to taste better than they've ever tasted, and so on. And then the narrator, Edward Norton's character, does the narration, says, you had to give it to him. He had a plan. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't have to give it to him. That is not good. That's like not a good thing that he just did. You specifically should not give it to him. And we'll come back to that because there's a lot of that and there's some interesting fallout from this movie.
Right.
And but basically, Tyler has now built an army of these guys, and his plan is to blow up all these credit card company buildings and just create total chaos and wipe out all the debt everywhere. Because that's his whole thing. And you finally figure out that there is no Tyler, that Edward Norton has been Tyler the entire time. He's got this split personality thing going on, and he figures that out for himself and tries to stop the plan from happening, but it's too late, and the plan happens. And the iconic final scene is him and Marla up at the top of the building watching all of these buildings explode as the plan goes through, and he says, you met me at a very strange time in my life. And then Where Is My Mind starts playing, and now that's the stereotypical thing that happens. So that's the movie.
Which is like 0.01% of the movie.
Yeah, but it's like the thing that people know. Right. I knew the twist going in.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes. So I don't know. It's interesting because for me going into this knowing that, it was very, very clear to me that Tyler was like obviously this repressed version of the narrator, that this was his like his violent urges made human, personified, and this was him creating this excuse to let it loose without taking any responsibility for it. And I wonder if that would have been clear at all if I didn't know that. Like, I did see, I also know about like the flashes of like the single frame of Tyler, which I guess kind of comes back in a funny way with his projectionist job and all that. It's kind of an in-joke with the movie itself, I suppose. And then it happens at the very end of the movie, so it's funny.
Yeah.
But I specifically noticed one of those. I know that it happened several times.
Right. So, funnily enough, me being a filmmaker boy, the first time that I watched it, actually, I did not know the twist.
Okay.
I was very thankful. The person I was watching it with was like, okay, I'm not going to tell you anything. Just go into it. Literally, I'm not going to tell you anything. Just watch it. So, sure enough, we watch it. I actually caught all of the frame inserts because like weirdly enough my eyes just like it knows those things. So like I would look at that stuff all day,
pretty obvious. Like it's like
if you know what you're looking for, it's there. So like your average person who doesn't stare at weird footage for like 9 hours a day probably wouldn't notice it, but when you're literally like fine tuned like that. So I noticed all of them, and I didn't know anything about the twist. It actually it got me by surprise in the end, but like I was wondering, like is that part of it? So the experience of watching the movie that first time, not knowing the twist, I think is a lot different than if you watch the movie knowing the twist. Because that was one thing I was thinking about, like rewatching it today, and I can't remember if I've watched it before, like again, since the first time I watched it. It's either my second or third time watching it. But I was thinking about how different of a movie it is, like when you know the twist, and like I feel like you're really supposed to watch it twice, because the first time you go through that experience of like like feeling through it, and then the second time you go in and you see, okay, here's everything alluding to it, and here's all the symbolism, and here's it all seems a lot more connected when you know the twist. When you don't, it's very disconnected, and like you're trying to put that stuff together, and you're kind of along for the ride as well.
Yeah. Because
I mean, it's literally a movie about perspective in a way, like and the whole bipolar thing, or the multiple personality rather, like that's it's very interesting how they do that. And like again, it's super obvious when you watch it the second time that Tyler and whatever
Ed,
the witch from Harry
Marla.
Potter, Marla, are never in the same room, and like he's just projecting
he
all of his
literally says out
insecurities.
loud that they were never in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. and then the second part of that being, he says out loud, he's like, it's just like when I was growing up, I'm relaying messages.
Yeah. When
in reality, he's just relaying messages between like himself and Marla, which is super weird to think about. So, yeah, it's I don't know where we were going with that whole thing, but yeah, that's a great moment just out of many of that movie.
Yeah, I have problems.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear your problems. Yeah,
so
go for it.
This is, and I think that I understand that part of this is just that like you can't help but watch this in 2020 and have like a different perspective, because it's like the same thing with like the reason people think that Seinfeld isn't funny or original or anything like that is because it is the original version of itself, and that everything since then has been Seinfeld.
Or like Citizen Kane, like you watch that and you're like, what the?
Well, that's not very special, but everything has been modeled after that from that point. So looking at Fight Club, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, it's just kind of like another movie from 1999, and it's just kind of like trying to be the cool, edgy guy. But I think, and while partly that is true, there is definitely a portion of that is how much this has been like copied and reproduced and everything. I actually wrote down here, and this you might debate me on this. I don't know. I think that this is basically the same movie as Joker if Joker was good or done well. Because I don't know that I liked this movie. I don't know that I enjoyed it. But I think that if they made Joker and they had the same level of like quality and the same level of thought put into it, it would be... It's not the same
story, though, in my opinion. Like, I know what you're saying. There's a lot of parallels that can be driven or like drawn, and like I think there's some legitimate ones. But I think if you boil down what they're actually trying to say, like what the message of the movie is.
What is the message of the movie?
They're two completely different. The message is like, who are you? What are you? You're defined by capitalism, consumerism. You're defined by the headphones that we have, the microphones that we have. We're that we have this illusion of choice. So we both chose. I mean, this is technically your microphone, but let's say we both bought this microphone. We both chose this one, but they're both a microphone. We're in this consumeristic society. I have these clothes, and I chose this because it like at the beginning of the movie, he's like, I used to look at IKEA catalogs and wonder which one most represented me. So like we're caught up in this whole like finding our identity in stuff and things and the people around us. And when you take all of that away, what are you? That's kind of like the weird reality the movie's looking at.
I can see that, but also that is Tyler Durden.
Whereas the Joker is like, this dude like is sad and doesn't have any outlet for it, and so he has a different reaction to that and goes and kills this like he is a broken artist. This is like a weird like a businessman, like your everyday guy. You know what I mean? There's nothing special about the main character. That's what the whole thing is. It's like, this is you. The whole movie is a giant, like, that's why you didn't like watching it, because it's supposed to, especially for guys. One of the reasons, like, I was watching some clips researching this morning, and they were talking about, like, the writer was talking about that, like, there's no media for dudes. Like, women have been getting all of this stuff where, well, think about it.
What does that mean?
Okay. for men, there's no there aren't many coming of age stories, or like, whereas for women there's like this huge push. Think about it though, like modern day. So the whole point of this movie is there's no World War II. What is our World War II? What are when you break it down, what are we supposed to do? Like you and me and our generation, we have no World War II to fight. We have no farms to build. We are completely out of our element as humans. When you actually boil it down, like we are built on a physiological level to find shelter, to frick, to get power, and that's what this movie's boiling it down to. It's exposing like the true innate desires of men, like.
But that's not that is not inherently a good thing. Like
right,
Tyler Durden and the message of the movie is not a good thing. None of this. It's supposed to be parody of itself.
That's the Fight Club thing.
But what you are repeating is Tyler Durden's message as gospel.
Right. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that's what the movie is saying. It's saying confront this. No, there's no. You're not supposed to have a takeaway from it. Like, there's no concrete like anything to this movie. That's kind of the point. Like everything from like Jack not being nailed down as like the narrator, like all of that weird lore and stuff. There's not supposed to be an answer. You're supposed to be able to paint yourself inside this movie. You like there's so much nondescript about like everything about whatever the main character, whatever we're calling him, his actor's name. But like he is literally just supposed to be the everyman, and Tyler Durden is supposed to be the repressed version of every dude. The thing that you want to do whenever you're driving and you want to say F you to the person in front of you that cut you off, like that is what Tyler Durden's supposed to be. And it's exposing that in reality we're told to like suppress this because it's bad, and it is bad, but you have to deal with it. You can't just like put it away. You know what I mean? You have to be able to embrace it and like live with that.
Sure. The fallout of that is that there is a whole like generation of people that miss the message of that this is not
100%.
The idea, that this is not what it is, that it is supposed to be self-parody.
And I that's what I'm saying. It's a narrative. It's a story. Like, we're buying into the story for this, and storytelling is just like, the message is what I'm saying. That's like what it's supposed to get you to think about. I'm saying within the movie, within the narrative, within the story, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying this should be applied to real life at all. What I'm saying is like the same thing you're saying. It's a very exaggerated version of real life events or real life feelings or something. They're literally just trying to get a message or a point across. I feel like with this movie, it's also from a book, so they're having to fit in a lot, which I think they do in a very interesting way. I haven't read the book, and I think I want to, because I don't think really any movie can nail like a book.
The author said this was a better version.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But I feel like this story also lends itself very well to a visual, like telling itself visually. You know what I mean? Because like in a book you have to imagine all this stuff, but visually you can just you can show Tyler Durden and like what he's doing. Like a lot of this movie is show not tell. And on purpose.
I mean, there's literally a narrator that describes everything that's happening for most of the movie.
Right.
So I would argue that is a lot of tell and not show.
But like the whole, like at the end of it, there's no telling you what's going on. It's showing you that this thing Fight Club has become bigger than one person and bigger than himself, and he has no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
So and then literally the last part of the movie is just showing and not telling. Like you don't actually know what's going to happen. Like you're not quite sure, like you don't have any actual confirmation besides him like going and seeing all that stuff, or until you see all that stuff, that those buildings are gonna blow up, and then you don't even know what's gonna happen after that. Like there's no resolution to anything in the movie besides the buildings blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
Besides like the plan going through.
Yeah. I think my problem with all this is just that like there is, and I think unfortunately like this movie has kind of perpetuated it, is just this culture of like men not being like comfortable talking about like their feelings and being in like an emotional mental space and everything.
or glorified it, you mean? Like giving it like a
because
this is right.
I'll explain. So basically like the beginning of the movie, he goes to the support group and it's all these guys that are being very open and they're like doing what you do in a support group and they're being open and they're talking about it. But the way that they're portrayed is as like these just losers who are just crying babies and they should just man up and quit being dumb like that.
Right.
And then the rest of the movie is, well, we're going to punch each other because there's no other way to feel good about ourselves. And while the
Right.
Edward Norton character still, like, he sort of turns
Okay,
around
what-
on that. Oh,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
He
Sorry,
sort
yeah.
of turns around
I
on
wanna come back
that.
to that.
It doesn't redeem itself in any way. That doesn't
Yeah.
change what it's been telling you up to this point. And while the message of the movie isn't that necessarily, that is what
Right.
came across for so many people. And it's like, that's why men's mental health is still a huge issue. So then, like, this movie is like the quintessential, we're guys and we're so cool and edgy and we punch each other and it's great. And
I don't
it's-
see
you don't see it that way, and that's
where,
not the point, and that's not the message.
No. I don't.
But that
I don't
is
necessarily
what
not
it
see it
looks
that
like.
way. I don't necessarily have the same problem that you do with that. Mm-hmm. I think that, like, there's an attack on masculinity just in general culture, and this movie is it's like pointing that out in a way. Like, it's not saying
What is masculinity?
What you're saying is absolutely what I'm not here to answer that. What I'm saying is,
well,
this, like,
how can you argue this point if you don't have a definition?
well, that's the whole point of this movie. Like, well, then how are you arguing anything? What is this whole argument? That's the whole point of this. Like, literally, like, what defines right and wrong? What defines male and not male, or whatever it is? Like, you know what I mean? Then there's no point. If you want to like say that, then you have the, I don't know. Then you're going down a whole different path with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this like the thing is, there's an attack on masculinity right now, and it's, if you want to, like, what this movie confronts is guys like hitting dudes. Like, you know, we just, it's a different thing. Like, this is something that I don't think that you have as much of, but I definitely do. Like, I could go, like, fight a dude and, like, beat the shit out of him, you know, like, literally, like, go as hard as I could, and then, like, walk away and be fine, see him at work the next day. And that's what this movie's like, the weird unspoken thing. Like, I think this movie has a lot of unspokens in it that you just have to have, like, been around that to understand it. So there's so much hidden meaning. That's what I mean. Like, it's so hard to summarize this movie, and everyone takes something different from it. And I think that's one of the cool parts of how this movie's put together, is that it's so open, yet it guides you down, yet it gets its idea across, but it lets you interpret it how you want to interpret it. And I think that's why what's so cool about it is that we have that differing opinion on it. Is, like, you know, like, we both took two different things from this. Like, you're seeing this is, like, the toxic representation of, like, masculinity, which I think it definitely is. Like, you shouldn't be going around blowing up buildings and, you know, beating people up every day. But it speaks to that innate desire of us to, like, want to go fight in World War II, or, like,
I don't want to beat people up and fight in World War II. Given the choice, I would. Given the choice, I would specifically not go fight in World War II.
What? No, that's what the whole point of this movie is. You don't know that about yourself.
I do
You
know
have
that
no
about
clue.
myself,
No,
because I know
you don't.
myself.
You've never been in World War II. You've never
And I never will be.
enlisted. That's the point. That's the whole point of this movie. The first part of this movie where he beats him up, he says, "Punch me." That's it right there. It's saying F you to all your insecurities. You don't know until you've been there how you would act. I could say, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go beat the crap out of all these people. Like, when the next World War III comes, I'm going to, but until you're in that moment, until it's you versus the other guy and one of you's going to die, you don't know about yourself. You don't know what you're going to do. When you have no other option, that's what defines you as a man. That's where integrity, courage, all of those attributes that everyone talks about, that's where they come out.
When you have no other option, you have no other option.
Right.
That's not a choice.
But how are you going to respond? Are you going to go beat the crap out of that guy because, like, you don't have an option, or are you going to cower and run away? It's fight or flight broken down.
If there's not another option, there's not another option.
Okay,
what are you talking about?
What I'm saying is you're on the battlefield, or you're in a scenario where it's life or death. And, like, how do you handle that situation? That's what defines.
If I'm in a scenario where it's life and death, it's life and death. These guys are choosing to beat each other up in a basement because they want to feel better about themselves.
Right, but that's the deep thing that they're tapping into. It gives them, what he's saying is, this is their World War II. This is what, for 10 minutes,
but it's
they can
not.
Feel like they're the bet. Like, yeah,
World War II was a major battle. It was a big thing. It was a thing about virtue. It was a thing about morals. This is guys beating each other up because they're losers and they feel bad about themselves.
It's the.
There's no moral to beating guys up in a basement because you want to feel better.
Right, that's the thing.
That's not their World War II.
No, but, like, that, like, the innate desire to, like, I don't know, like, to actually, like, fight and, like, just see what you're made of. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Guys are testing themselves. Like, boys inherently test themselves. They look to their dads for, like, affirmation. So, like, when you're climbing a cliff with your dad and he says good job, that means a lot more to like a dude or like a boy than it's going to mean to a lot like a girl. Like they look at, I mean, and it's not everything, obviously, you know, I blanket statements, whatever, but more so than ever, or like more than not, a boy's going to take that a lot more seriously from their dad than a girl would take that. And I think that's a huge thing that's not emphasized in society enough, is like finding your worth. So if you've never been given a direction, if you've never had worth, if you've never had like anything to like go by, then what's the point? Why try? Why do anything? So that's what this movie is. He realizes he has nothing. Tyler shows him that his IKEA life, his capitalism, consumeristic life, it has no value and brings him nothing. And then he's left with what do I do from there? And to cope with that, then he brings in Tyler Durden to do what he wants to do, but has too much like you know, sense to do. So Tyler Durden is a thing that's in all of us that we don't let out, because like we have, like, that's, it's almost like you could take it back to like, this could be, you know, it could be part of like the curse, or what is inherently wrong, like, you know, going back to like creation and sin and stuff like that, you know, like this is, I almost want to like read, I mean, I'm not sure this doesn't really have much to do with like, you know, Fight Club the movie, but I want to like read the verse and like look at like the affliction, because you know, like it's the toil by, you know, your hands or something like that, and like you're gonna have pain when you work the fields and stuff like that, you know, whereas women have a different curse. And like you look at those and how they inherently shape society and like deep down the fundamentals of every person, and it's kind of odd, like you can actually like look at it and be like, oh yeah, I see that a lot. And so I'm curious if that's like part of what's wrong inherently with, you know, men. Like we're not, nobody's perfect. That's kind of the whole thing. It's like, this is looking at the deep, gritty, dirty part that we don't want to admit to ourselves. That's kind of the whole thing of this movie. It's like, yeah, every like the hypothesis is every guy secretly has this, but they're not man enough to admit, or not man enough, like they don't know themselves well enough to admit it. And so like that's the whole point of this movie. He doesn't know himself well enough to admit that he's doing all these things that he wouldn't like to do. Like he looks at Bellatrix Lestrange and is like, who would want that? Yet secretly, because he's too good for it. But like secretly he's like, he wants that relationship, but he's too afraid to do anything about it. You know what I mean? So Tyler does all that stuff. He sets all those things up, and then that's I feel like more what this movie is exploring, you know? Instead of like, men want to fight and they don't know how to deal with emotions. It's like, we deal with emotions differently. Here's just something you can empathize with and open the conversation with, you know? I don't know. What's your take? What's your
I don't know. I think if it is trying to explore these issues so delicately and so sensitively, it I don't know that it succeeds necessarily in doing that, because the lasting impression of Fight Club has not been that.
Right. Well, I guess I guess I look at, I don't really look at like movies like everyone, like what the general consensus is. I just kind of watch them and then take what I get from it. That's something that I do a lot differently than I think most people.
Sure.
From what I've noticed.
And I get that, but in the conversation of, is it succeeding at the message that it's trying to portray? That is what you have to look at.
Yeah, then you can have that conversation. Right. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, then you could definitely argue that it's been taken in the wrong way. Like, I think my impression of Fight Club was way different until I watched it and like had my own opinion on it.
Sure.
Like, I think before I had watched it, I kind of had the same, like, you know, like, I thought kind of like, this is a weird, like, cringy movie that people, like, hang posters up and make jokes about all the time. First rule of Fight Club. I thought it was a comedy or something. Like, I didn't know.
A lot of the IMDb trivia was talking about like what scenes got laughs and stuff, and I was like, this is not funny at all. There was nothing. Yeah. I didn't laugh at anything in this movie.
No, I don't think it's not a comedy.
Except for the idea, before actually seeing it, just the idea of Edward Norton beating himself up in a parking lot when those two guys first come out. That kind of made me chuckle to myself, but that's not the intended idea. And again, there.
I think within the narrative, it's a completely different scene. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to take the movie at its full. Like, that's why I'm saying watch it. Like, watch the movie, have your own project yourself on it, see where you end up on it, see what like really resonates with you. Because I feel like that's what's so cool about this movie, is that you can almost like watch it at different times and like have different perspectives on it and see different parts of it, kind of like the Chronicles of Narnia, like how you're supposed to read them at like 12, 20 and like 40 or something.
Well,
how far into the podcast are we?
Almost an hour.
Oh, nice. Okay. Josh wants me to help him with some couches in like 10 minutes.
Well,
so
we'll see about that. So let's open up the notes again.
That was a good little discussion. I feel like that's the best discussion we've had about a movie so far.
Yeah. So that's Fight Club. Fight Club, yes or no?
Oh, definitely yes. I loved it.
I say no.
Really? Whoa! First, no on the show. You did okay. What was like the thing you didn't like the most? Like if you had to like put like a reason of like why I didn't like this movie.
I think it's just like it's the same reasons that I don't like Joker. Really, like it just like I don't really think that it does what it's trying to do successfully, and I don't think that like it's got cool visual style and it's very clever in its dialogue and stuff like that.
Right.
I just don't think that it succeeds in the message that it's trying to portray. And
right. But,
I didn't care. I'm never going to watch it again because I don't care about it. I don't care to do it.
So is like, okay, I'm so confused because I had the total like opposite reaction. Like I legitimately like, so, okay. Are you talking like overall in the grand scheme of things or like you personally?
What does that mean?
Like, are you like, what perspective are you kind of like, was that from? Is it like overall it didn't get the message across or like you didn't understand what it was trying to say?
No, I know like what it was saying. I know what it thought it was trying to say.
Well, what is that to you is what I'm asking.
Well, like, because it is ultimately, it is self-parody. Like, it is trying to show that, like, this is ridiculous and this is over the top and this isn't what you should do and everything. But just, like, the message that has been portrayed is we're the cool guys who beat each other up in the basement.
Okay, so here's what's happening. I feel like you're taking it black and white. Like, this says it shows people beating up, so that's what this movie is about. Like, that's what this idea is. And, like, I think there's more nuance to it than that.
Yeah,
I think that's,
there's
like,
a lot of nuance, and
is.
there's a lot of what the message, like, legit there's a lot of story that's really, really cool in the Star Wars prequels. You know, there's a really interesting story underneath all that. But it wasn't executed, and it didn't work out. And for me, that's Fight Club. It didn't work in the end.
Because of that story, like because of all those things. Like I went in and filled all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like doing the research into it.
Yeah,
so
but
I want to read the
I
want
to watch a movie and have the movie be the movie. I don't want to watch a movie, think, well, that was empty, and then have to read 3 novels about why it's good.
I thought there was so much going on that I wanted to like make sure I got everything. You know what I mean? Like that. Like I felt like there was so much that went over my head the first time that I just didn't even like understand. Then I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe if you know the twist, though.
I was taking a lot of detailed notes the entire time. I was looking at I've read a lot of things and all kinds of. I just don't have interest in going back to it, and I don't know that I would necessarily suggest it to someone.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, our first major different opinion on the podcast. We love to see it.
Yeah. It's time for everyone's favorite segment.
What is that?
IMDb trivia.
Oh boy.
People actually really, really like apartment news. But this is IMDb trivia, yeah.
F you, my segment's better.
Okay. Let's fight in the basement.
Yo, can we get a thumbs up in the chat if you like my apartment news?
If Ben gets more apartment likes, then we're gonna fight in the basement. And
every thumbs up on this video means that you like apartment news.
We're gonna fight in the basement so much that one of us won't exist in real life anymore.
I'll
That's what the movie's about. It's about guys who punch each other so hard they stop existing.
I don't.
Which, hey, if you kind of contort it, that kind of fits. If you
what are you talking about? They never fight each other.
No, it's these guys that they're punching each other so hard that then their repressed selves, their old selves go away, and now they're all part of Project Mayhem. Boom. Look how I'm all philosophical. Right. Okay, so here's IMDb trivia. When the narrator hits Tyler Durden in the ear, Edward Norton actually did hit Brad Pitt in the ear. He was originally going to fake hit him, but before the scene, David Fincher, director of the film, pulled Norton aside and told him to hit him in the ear. After Norton hit him in the scene, you can see him smiling and laughing while Pitt is in pain. So that's great. Throughout the film, Tyler Durden can be seen to wear blue light blocking glasses, commonly used by insomniacs to filter out blue light, which is detrimental to the production of melatonin, a chemical essential for sleep. That I thought was really cool. That is really clever and interesting because like there's the line at one point of like, how have I been going to bed early and staying up late? Have I been Tyler longer in the day?
Right.
And like his insomnia isn't insomnia, it's him being Tyler. So that's interesting. It's not without its merits. There's really cool, interesting things in here. I just didn't like it overall, generally.
Right.
I like that, though. Bob wears a shirt during his fights, despite one of the 8 rules being you are not allowed to wear shirts or shoes during fights. This was because Meatloaf's fat suit had to be covered during these scenes.
I did know that, actually.
Take that, Meatloaf.
Plus, I don't want to see any man boobs. Let's be honest here.
Well, when Tyler and the narrator are on the bus, the long-haired guy pushes past Tyler without a word and then says, "Excuse me," as he pushes past the narrator. I thought about this when I didn't think specifically about this exact like word-for-word exchange, but like when that guy goes through them, I was like, "Oh, well, there had to be something there." That was a weird inclusion.
Wait, which part? Hold on.
It's like they're on a bus and they're on like either side hanging on to the thing, and then someone just like pushes their way through them. And it was just like kind of weird and sudden. I was like, well, there has to be something deeper there. So I guess that's just the first clue, probably, that Tyler isn't a real guy. Much confusion exists around fans about the narrator's name. Many believe it is Jack due to the use of the phrase "I am Jax," etc. But others argue that he only uses the moniker Jack because that was the one he saw in Annotated Reader. Interestingly, the press packages released for the movie, which came in the form of an IKEA-esque catalog, the character is referred to as Jack, as he is on the back of the DVD. And in the booklet accompanying the DVD, where the chapter list is referred to as Jack's Chapters, also, this original screenplay by Jim Ools refers to him as Jack, and on the other hand, in closed captions for the film, he is referred to as Rupert. Edward Norton reveals that he refers to the character as Jack on the audio commentary on the DVD and Blu-ray. The scene where this is my last one. The scene where the narrator's boss.
It's like the Greedo thing. Who shot first?
McClunky. The scene where the narrator's boss finds the rules of Fight Club in the photocopier, and the narrator points out that whoever wrote it is obviously dangerous and might one day storm through the building shooting everyone, proved to be a highly controversial scene for the filmmakers. Really? What a surprise. In early test screenings, the scene got huge laughs. Yeah.
What?
And scored extremely highly with audiences. Yeah, it's really funny when a man who is very downtrodden and repressed threatens to shoot up his entire office. That's hilarious and not entirely a likely situation that could happen.
So funny.
However, these screenings happened before the Columbine massacre. In all screenings after Columbine, the scene evoked no laughter whatsoever and scored extremely poorly, with audiences commenting that they felt it was in bad taste. That's because it always was.
I don't know, man. Why not?
And it's
put it in a movie?
Supposed to be, but
it's a movie. Yeah, it's in bad taste on purpose. Yeah. It's doing something.
This prompted the studio to ask director David Finch to cut the scene altogether. Fincher considered doing so, but the scene leads into the pivotal Marla breast cancer scene. Yeah. So he decided that it couldn't be cut.
It's dumb to cut it. I don't know. I think it would have been really stupid if they would have had to cut it.
I don't know that it really would have taken anything away necessarily, but also
but like it's a movie.
Matter.
Like have the suspension of disbelief to realize that it's not real life and you can figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think it would really matter either way if they took it out or didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's like okay, whatever.
It's just like who cares that it's in there? Who cares that it's out of there? Just they did it.
It's out of there. It's in there. Oh, let's get the days. That's what director David Fincher sounds like. Just kidding. He sounds nothing like that. Are you going to look up his voice?
In my house. No.
Well, that is the end of the thing. We've given our scores. So it's time for our final segment, Ben. What you been getting into, yo?
Not much. Playing some Warzone, getting kicked out of all the good squads. So that's pretty much it. Playing B Squad with Marshall. It's been great.
Oh yeah. Ben and Marshall. It's a good time losing all the time. I've been longboarding a bit, and my legs are a bit much right now. I might be biking later today, so that'll be a whole situation in itself. I finished Community. Very good ending.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did do that.
I thought the ending was very good. I liked it a lot. Season 4 was Season 4. It was fine. I didn't think it was that bad, but I could definitely tell that Dan Harmon was gone. And now that it's getting all this buzz
Which
because it's
was-
on Netflix, it's getting a lot of thought. People are thinking that it's a lot more likely that we are going to get the 6 seasons and a movie. And Dan Harmon has even alluded to that.
Okay, rank these endings. The Office, Parks and Rec, Community, Psych.
They're all very good.
Yeah, but so I don't. One of them that I don't like is Psych. I think that was a horrible ending. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I would go. I just really like the monk reference in the finale. I think that's really fun.
Right. But okay, here's my issue with it. The whole damn series is in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And for the last episode is not. Like, come on. The one time to do all the tropes again, like, it's the last episode. Just throw all the fan service at us. Like, take us to Santa Barbara, do a little stupid episode around Santa Barbara, find all the old people that you met. It's all happy and sad.
If it was fan service, you'd hate it more.
Yeah.
I say
it felt stupid.
Number 1, Parks and
Anyways,
Rec.
to answer
Number
the
2, Community. Number 3, The Office. Number 4, Psych.
Okay.
I like the jump into the future that Parks
I think
and
I would
Rec
agree
does.
with that. I haven't seen Community, the end of it, but the other 3 I would agree on how you ranked them.
Solid.
Relative to each other.
But yeah, finished Community. It was a good time. Been getting into Animal Crossing still. And I started watching The Wire because I decided I need to continue getting my money's worth out of HBO. Which I technically not, because that is one of the series that they have available for free right now because of COVID-19.
Ooh.
I did say Corvid.
Send me the
There's a
login.
joke behind that. Is it?
So we don't get demonetized.
Isn't it logged in on the Game Grumps? I don't know if I told you about this. I was watching a Game Grump episode. I don't remember what it was, but they.
Couches are here. Hold on. This might be the end of the podcast. Wait, go ahead.
But they started doing a episode, and Dan almost said something about it, and then Aaron was like, "Oh, you can't talk about it, or else you get demonetized." Like, what?
Right.
That's crazy. How do you not talk about that? All that, so on and so forth. So they have been talking about it. They've been referring to it as the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, which is a real thing that's kind of happening. So now, like, it's been like a month or more, and they still like talk about. Well, because of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour and all that, and like we really don't want people to go to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, and like it's really funny. And they did an episode with Thomas Middleditch and Ben Schwartz, and they were also talking about it in that way.
That's amazing.
It was hilarious. Yeah. It's great. But I started The Wire. It's good. Well, I am.
I guess say goodbye to the people.
I am at mparish_art on Instagram, as well as the Great Scub Do on Twitch and YouTube. Do some Twitch streams every once in a while. It's been a while, but we might get back to it at some point.
Let's do one tonight.
Maybe. We'll see. Ben, where are you on the internet?
We'll do something.
Where can people find you?
I'm only putting my TikTok out 2020. Ben with a lens. That's, find me.
Cool. Very cool. All right. And that's the show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to fight your boys, don't make sure to do it in a basement, and don't tell me about it.
The show is over. It is done. I have had a little bit of fun.
Yeah. My name is...
No, it's over.
Okay.